Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. These weekly confessions run 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. Season 6 is the exploration of the physics of how all this information gets extracted from our websites by AI models for the purpose of, I guess we want to call them GEO citations. Welcome to episode 28 of Confessions of an SEO, Season 6. Today is a kind of serious discussion. I'm titling it Symmetry Before Semantics. And I know that's not how we were taught SEO. Relevancy first and foremost, right? But in today's episode, I'm going to provide the reasoning as to why it is that way now, the symmetry before the semantics, and what to do. In the rush to make websites AI ready, professional developers are falling into what I consider a dangerous diagnostic trap. They're decoupling the site's semantic data layer, this is what they show the machine, from its human rendered content, what we as people see on the screen. By serving these customized and unrendered machine-only, you can call them sidecar files, and I'm talking about the LLMs.txt files, as well as some other things, namely these guys that are creating basically a mirror copy of a website and redirecting the AI bots to the machine version of the site and the humans to the regular version of the site. And they do this, they present it makes a lot of sense, and stakeholders who agree to allow this to go forward are unknowingly making their domains and brands vulnerable by paying to build what in essence are unshielded backdoors into their domain. So anyway, this episode, my intention is to expose what I think is a severe security vulnerability when you decouple AI layers from the human layers. And I want to explain the self-preservation mechanisms that the LLMs employ to protect themselves. And also, more importantly, what you can do to protect your domains and brands. This past week, John Mueller gave a transparent response. I'm even going to go so far as to say a warning to stop some engineering silliness. And he said this on Bluesky, the social media. A properly made website works well for AI agents and search engines and LLMs and above all for actual people. If you're trying to fix accessibility issues by making a separate agent-friendly version, you are just building technical debt. You'll have to redo it multiple times, so just fix it. And I could not agree more. Appears in response to John's statement, some developers said that they're deploying this root level JSON files for every page of the site. And they're redirecting the LLM crawlers to those files. So humans go one direction, LLM crawlers go the other. Now, without a doubt, this is a critical architectural error in addition to kind of like textbook cloaking. Now, the error sits on top of a flawed, let's say, assumption that public AI models will blindly trust and index any self-reported data sitting outside a visual document flow. That visual part is very important. Now, since that is now possible, I would say people who do that, they're entering into an unexpected and unaccounted for security vulnerability. And the two things that come to mind would be the direct prompt injection and data poisoning. What are those? Well, if a RAG crawler, this is for the retrieval augmented generation, which sits outside of the models. It's like they know what they know and they can access it for free, but this is how they keep the information in the model fresh. So they have this RAG engine that they use. So GPT bot, Claude bot, and Google Other they programmatically, let's say if they were to find these files, they would programmatically ingest essentially a raw, unrendered JSON file from web servers. And when they would do this, this opens a massive and sort of unshielded portion. Think about it. Spammers and malicious actors can construct hidden JSON payloads containing different system instructions for the purpose of hijacking a model's output. Examples would be like overriding a user search query, redirecting traffic, or serving deceptive competitive claims. So by taking in these standalone, unauthenticated JSON files, it exposes the AI search agents to these severe bad actor exploits. And what things can they do? Well, they can spin up automated consensus factories using thousands of cheap machine-only files hosted on compromised or expired domains. These files contain made-up, mutually reinforcing, false data, but that humans never see. Now, without a visual validation, I'm going back to the visual part, the AI's databases, they would absorb all this essentially poison data as verified consensus. And this would cause a whole lot of problems, mainly hallucinations. They're going to be guessing. Now, without a visual layout audit, AI engines cannot protect their training documents from this fake or spam consensus flooding. All right. So, how do the machines fight this? Well, they do have a plan. So rest assured, they're not going to adapt to a shortcut just because it's there. Just because we can do something doesn't force the AI to say like, okay, I'll read that. So let me introduce you to a zero trust security test. Okay. So we know AI engines, they operate under very strict security constraints because they need to protect and defend their parent networks. And so they automatically depreciate, isolate, or perhaps even totally discard unrendered ad hoc JSON files during that first pass filtering. So to preserve the model integrity, they have to basically programmatically lock out of their systems any standalone machine-only payloads, such as a JSON. So how do they do that? Because it's a file and they're crawlers. Crawlers crawl. So what do? Here's the secret. It's a visual verification path. And you may remember, certainly since the start of season 6, I'm full partner on the VizzEx software. And in my research, discovered what we are calling the Symmetry Gate. So it's a test. It's a test to see if what you tell the machine in your HTML matches exactly what you show a human visually on their screen. Now, to be honest, when I found this, I was scratching my head a little bit. I was wondering, well, why this particular test? So modern crawlers don't take content in a vacuum. Unlike, how things used to work, I guess we want to say. So these AI crawlers, they have to verify the information served to their bots matches what is displayed to a real human visitor, because this is how they're going to defeat a cloaking exploit. So AI crawlers have these rendering pipelines, and they construct the DOM, the rendered DOM, document object model, and the headers, also known as accessibility trees, on their side, and they map the element visibility, font sizes, layout coordinates, and computed CSS styles. Now, if you compare all of that to a root level JSON file, remember, is just machine instructions. So there's no visibility to that on a browser. And so that file has no visual footprint, no CSS paint cycle, no layout coordinates, because it cannot be rendered in a standard viewpoint. So the crawler's visual verification algorithms cannot audit it. So it has nothing to compare it with. It's only one point. It's not a comparison between 2 points to find out what's different. It's just one frickin' point. Now, because these JSONs lack a viewport, these standalone JSON files fail the visual verification pathways required to establish index-level trust. And here's what John Mueller referenced. Hosting two separate formats, HTML for humans and JSON for bots, it leads to inevitable content drift, because if an update is made to the HTML but is missed in the JSON file for that page, the factual mismatch triggers what we call a contradiction gate fail, like they don't match. So the AI automatically prioritizes the human verifiable DOM and penalizes the domain's extraction rate. They spend more money to do this. And there's actually a lot more to this particular story, and I wrote an article about it on VizzEx. The title is called The AI Decoy Website Trap, an Algorithmic Suicide Squeeze Play. So, okay, based on where we are right now, you probably think, okay, I know I'm not going to do that. So you figure you have addressed it. But did you know that even if you don't deploy a decoy website, you might be in the crosshairs of attackers that will target high authority domains in order to hijack the entity trust that domain has developed in the AI models? Whoa, shock, right? So let's look at that one. And, we can call it anything you want, but it's basically it's a parasite relationship, right? They want to live off the AI trust of that domain until they've wasted all of that AI trust of that domain. So what they do is they upload a static file directly to, let's say they hack into a website, but they don't try and do anything to make it look bad. They don't try and, it's not like they say, we take over your domain. They just upload it in the background. And this is where they compromise the WordPress site. But with this static file on the root, any kind of traditional security scans of the visual pages is going to show 100% clean files. So now the AI crawler has the access because it's being directed to it, and it ingests this high trust root file. And in short, the AI attributes the innocent domain's authority to the attacker's poisoned semantic assertions. So they do what that file says. And they do it because they trust this domain. So attackers can actively exploit the lack of visual checks on sidecar files to convert high authority innocent domains into stealthy hosts for these poisoned data sets. It can also do it with CSS, schema injections. They could perform a DOM injection and put undesired things in the schema. And they can pack it with hidden entity links, malicious relationships, and hiding them visually because it's cloaked. And these injections allow the hackers to piggyback on an innocent site's authority. And they do this by feeding essentially unsymmetrized structured markup schema to the first passed AI parsers. And it believes what it reads. But once initially, let me just say that way, believes it initially. But once the AI's deeper layer, which has this visible verification, once they render that page, they can detect the massive schema that has a paint size of 0 by 0 pixels. And once the AI flags this, it's a severe cloaking violation. The innocent domain is instantly hit with a trust penalty. And because AI search demotions happen silently, you don't get an alert. And the owner of that site has no idea why their brand has vanished from AI answers. They're in Google. They're just not in AI anymore. And so decoupling that machine-readable schema from the human-rendered viewpoint port. This is sort of untraceable corporate identity and authority theft. How's that for a new AI crime? So this is why I come back to the Symmetry firewall, how the Symmetry firewall is your friend. And I say symmetry before semantics. Before your optimizations have any meaning, you have to secure the delivery channel. You must mathematically prove that the machine sees exactly what the human sees, because meaning without proof is a security threat. That's how serious this is. And true deterministic AI citations, like you do it and you are assured of citation in a way, you can only get that through the one-to-one integration, that symmetry check between the HTML and the rendered DOM. Now, we've built a free diagnostic tool. It's called the VizzEx Symmetry Gate Scanner, and any site owner can check their status today if you want to. The scanner executes really not just one, but two verification passes. There's the first pass, which is the symmetry gate, and it audits the raw HTML against the rendered DOM. And then a second one we call the algorithmic parity. And this audits the JSON schema assertions against the rendered DOM to ensure that all the claims that they are in the schema underneath the page are visually grounded in the rendered DOM. So if you want to periodically check to confirm that you're not falling out of the Symmetry Gate, our free Symmetry Gate scanner will let you instantly find out, are you or are you not? So how do you catch a silent hacker? Good question. The answer is you'd have to be paying attention to your server logs. We handle some of this at VizzEx through a premium membership where you have access to a unified dashboard and you connect in your server logs and you can have those analyzed anytime you want. And you'll be able to monitor crawl behavior, and it would provide immediate visibility into the files that are being crawled. And in a way, the software is I'm not going to go so far as say it's structural firewall, but we don't. In fact, if you were using LLMs.txt files and VizzEx, likely we're going to find that out and send a notice and let you know that that's not how you prepare for the Symmetry Gate. But the cool part about it is that once you do have a symmetry in your HTML and your rendered DOM, content is fun again. You don't have to wait for the parity to be confirmed through the whole system before you start interlinking based on concepts and relationships. That's how VizzEx is built. If you didn't want to go that route, you can spend all your time updating your titles and headers, and while you fall in and out of the SERPs, you can capture some short-term cycles of RAG citations, but they don't last very long, so you're going to always have to pedal faster to get more of the same until, as they say in Texas, that dog don't hunt anymore, and you're dealing with some unknown issue, some unknown penalty, and your site isn't getting crawled anymore. Your choice. But I'm excited by all the site recovery signals in the various test sites. Last week I told you about the one, but now there are two that are coming along the same path, so it looks like it's repeatable. Anyway, the recovery is based on the focus is on the parity and the semantics, secondly, and relying on the physics of the LLMs to recover the sites. Anyway, symmetry first, semantics second. I'm Carolyn Holzman, and that's it for me this week. VizzEx stands as the definitive global authority about information extraction by the LLMs. And remember, keep your signals clean, that's the symmetry, and your HTML honest, and I'll see you next week on Confessions.